subscribe to me because I only have 3 right now. If you haven't watched my previous video on bad money habits, then check out the link in the description box after this video. I've worked for over 10 plus years in corporate finance, from an analyst to a director of finance, and I've just noticed a lot of bad habits that maybe you should watch out for. Number 1 is actually creating the expectation of spending. Let's say you bought your friend a really expensive gift. Let's say it's a $2,000 desktop computer, a gaming computer. And let's say year after year you want to outdo yourself because this friend means a lot to you. So next year you get him something like another $2,000 gift. Next time is a $2,500 gift, maybe a $3,000 gift. It just keeps growing. Now it's hard to dial back from this, but that's what you need to do. You need to dial it back. Reasons why you might not want to dial it back is because you don't want to be a downer. You don't want to let down your friend. But you can't sustain this. It's just going to keep going up and your salary's not going up that much. So you need to dial it back. To let them down slowly, you start getting a control on how much you spend. Instead of a $2,000 gift, let's do a $1,700 gift or a $1,500 gift. Let's say a $1,200 gift, $1,500, and it's like $150. You slowly start decreasing the amount that you're giving them. You course correct and reset the expectations of spending. The alternative to this is if you have an understanding friend, you just tell them you're trying to do something else with your money. You want to save it. You've watched my videos. You want to build your wealth. And you understand that the more money you have now, the more money you can make. And then you just be honest with your friend. And that friend could just be like, oh, okay, you don't have to get me anything. I didn't need it after all. So watch out for this one. Building the expectations of spending could get you stuck in a trap. Number 2 is when you start justifying it as a one-time thing. Let's say you haven't seen a friend in 5 years. You start justifying that, okay, it's not a big deal if I take that friend out to a fancy expensive dinner. It's just several $100s. Even if you're currently in credit card debt, if you're currently having trouble with your finances, you're saying, oh, I can't let down my friend. I only see them once every 10 years. I need to spend money on them because it's only right. Well, let's say you have 10 friends you haven't seen often. Let's say 100. So one-time thing becomes a hundreds time thing. And it really snowballs from there. It becomes very, very expensive to upkeep. So to course correct from this one, you need to accurately categorize what this one-time thing is. Call it for what it is. Group it as friends expense. It all goes under expenses that you're using on friends, or let's say on family or something, whatever it is. And if you tally that all up, instead of saying it's a one-time thing, it becomes, oh, I'm actually spending $10,000 on my friends every year because I have that many friends and I'm such a popular person. So watch out for the one-time thing excuse, because a lot of times you can't afford even the one-time thing. Or if you can't afford the hundredths time thing. Number 3 is when you're behaving the same way, even if your financial situation changes. So like I said in the previous ones, if you've built up the expectations of paying for people, let's say you're the friend or the cool uncle that always pays for dinners, always pays for meals. Well, let's say back then you could afford it because you didn't have a house, or let's say you just had a lot of money. But now you do have a house and you have mortgage bills, so you need to pay your mortgage bills. You can't keep paying for everyone's dinners because you don't want your house foreclosed on you. Or in the case if you lost your job, you can't continue paying for people even if you feel like you want to because you're the cool uncle and you want to maintain that reputation. So to dial back on this one, again, just be real with yourself. Understand if you can't do it, you need to really just let them know you're not able to pay for all their dinners. You need to really come to terms that you can't afford to do all these things and prioritize. You want to be a homeowner, so you want to make sure you pay your mortgage. And for a more drastic or concrete example, maybe you've heard of the stories of someone who has a well-paying job and buys $1 million home. Then they lose that job. They were only barely paycheck to paycheck able to pay and afford that mortgage, that monthly mortgage for that $1 million home. Once they lose that job, or let's say they get a lower paying job, they can no longer afford it. And in a mortgage, you are required to pay that amount. You are expected and required to pay that, or else you will lose that home. So in their situations, they do get foreclosed on and they no longer own that home and the banks take it back. So you don't want to behave the same if your finances aren't the same. Number 4 is thinking you've improved enough. You've identified 10 things that you need to get better on. And let's say you've fixed and managed to improve on 7 of them. And you're like, I've done enough. I don't need to try that hard anymore. I don't need to rush to get better on the other 3 or to get even better because I've improved a lot. Remember back then I was so broke and so poor, and today I'm actually not much better. So the problem here is you need to look at the big picture. It's always looking at the big picture. Understand if you're so far behind, can improving 7 things get you back on track? Or can improving 10 things get you back on track? You need to do the one that makes sense for you, which the whole goal here is to build wealth and not lose money at the end of each month. But some people, they get stuck in the thought that if they've done so much and they've made so much progress, sure, it's worth the pats on the back. So go ahead and pat yourself on the back. But if you're not there yet, if you're not at a situation that you can sustain or that you want, then you need to keep getting better and be aggressive in getting better, as aggressive as you can possibly be or realistically be for yourself at a pace that makes sense for you and your finances. Number 5 is not having a rainy day fund. This one is fairly self-explanatory, and you've probably heard of all the sayings about saving for a rainy day. Now you really want this because sometimes you can't predict how much money you'll need. Let's say you lose your job. Let's say some expenses become a lot higher than you expected them to be. Or let's say some expense pops up when you didn't plan on it. So really, you want to have some savings or something to bail you out at the end of the day, and you don't want that to be credit cards because credit cards comes with really high interest. Number 6 is using a crutch. Now I don't mean a literal crutch where let's say you have a sprain and then you're using crutches. I mean a crutch as in someone who's giving you temporary funds, which could be in the form of a loan or a gift. It could be from mom or dad, siblings, your best friend, or your boyfriend or your girlfriend. And what I mean by this is sometimes people, and I've seen people, they get a distorted sense of their finances. They're saying that normally they have X amount of dollars at the end of each month, but they forget to factor in that they got a loan from their mom and dad, or that they got a gift from their best friend, or some sort of money that distorts how much they're actually saving on their own at the end of each month. And this one, you want to get away from this one, because if you're under the impression that you're doing fine when you're only doing fine with that crutch, what happens when that crutch is no longer able to support you? Maybe let's say your boyfriend or girlfriend, they can no longer pay your bills, or your mom and dad, they can't help you out buy whatever dream home that you wanted. So you want to make sure that you have a realistic picture of how your finances are on your own. Okay, so we're almost done. Number 7 is relying on luck to take care of things. For example, let's say you regularly go out to fancy dinners with your rich friend. And let's say you don't have any savings, but you're banking on the fact that they're always paying. What happens if they're actually like, no, I've paid enough. It's your turn to pay. I always get the check and now I'd like that you do it. Okay, but it turns out you're going to have to rack up credit card debt because you don't have enough savings, you don't have enough money. Don't put it up to luck that your finances will take care of itself. Some people, they're like, oh, this normally works out. Let's avoid that situation and actually come with a concrete plan on how you'll have sustainable finances. That way, at the end of each month, you're not left guessing. You're going to take charge of your finances and make sure that you are on your path to building wealth. So that's all the tips I have for right now. If you like this video, please like it, share it with your friends and family, whoever that you think needs it, and I thank you so much for watching.